When I embarked on Norwegian Prima in New York City, I thought I knew what to expect. I took my first cruise with Norwegian when I was 11 years old, and I've been on 9 Norwegian cruise ships since then. It only took me a few seconds though to realise that this ship was very different from any of the ships I've been on before. As soon as I laid my eyes on the ship, I saw that there were these terrifying looking slides on the side of the ship. I almost didn't believe my eyes, but I also saw that there was a massive racetrack on the top deck. I'd find out later that this was a 3-storey go-kart track, and I hoped that I would be brave enough to have a go on both the slides and the go-karts as the cruise went on. When we boarded the ship, we headed straight to the main atrium, which definitely has a wow factor. It felt very open and bright, and it's split over 3 decks with different things to do on each level. I felt as though I was inside a spaceship, and I just loved these lights and colours. The stairs were so much fun too. It really felt as though you were gliding as you went up or down these stairs. On the bottom level, there's a bar where we would often get a drink during the day, and they do play live music in here too. All around the atrium were these funky glass vases, and art definitely is a theme with the ship that you'll see popping up again and again during this tour. Right beside the atrium is the Prima Theatre and Club. It's not often that a theatre surprises me, usually they're pretty similar, but this one is very, very different. We walked into the lowest level and we were greeted with a huge and empty room. Of course, it does make sense to wonder where are all the seats, and it turns out that they fold them all away because they use this area as a nightclub. This is what it looks like in normal theatre mode, and this is what it looks like later in the evening when it turns into an area called Studio 54. The seats were actually very comfortable, which you probably wouldn't expect for fold-away seats, and all of the seats down here have cup holders too, which might not sound that important, but it does make a big difference. We saw some amazing shows in here, including Summer, the Donna Summer musical, and The Price is Right live. Each show had loads of set pieces and costumes and props, and they would just appear and then disappear as if by magic when they were needed. The lights on the ceiling were seriously cool too. They would spin around and they would put on these amazing light displays, especially when this area is being used as a club. The theatre is also used for entertainment during the day, so you might come in here and just come across Deal or No Deal happening in here or something like that. On the other side of the atrium is the casino, which is actually non-smoking, which is nice. It's absolutely huge with loads of different tables and machines, including this one, which is my personal favourite, that just bounces the dice up and down. I'm pretty easily pleased. I did do my usual $10 gamble during this cruise, but unfortunately this time I didn't win it big. Maybe next time. There is a little room inside the casino for those who want to smoke, which I think is a nice touch. The room has all of the usual things that you'll find in the bigger casino. It just means that those who want to smoke and gamble can, but not everybody else has to smell that smoke. There is also a cigar room on board, and there are other outside smoking areas. There are loads of dining options on board Norwegian Prima, and each one has a very distinct design. Passing the casino, we found the first of these restaurants, Cagney's Steakhouse. The design of this restaurant is very industrial, it includes a lot of concrete, and it's quite different from the Cagney's that I've been in on other Norwegian ships. We had an amazing meal here, and if you do come here, make sure you order this chocolate cake. It's so good. Cagney's is a specialty restaurant that comes at an extra charge, but there is plenty of included food too, if that is more your thing. To the side of the Cagney's is the Commodore room. It's a beautiful main dining room where all of the food is included in the cruise fare, but in my personal opinion, the best main dining room is up on deck 7. Between Cagney's and the Commodore room is a bar called the Belvedere Bar. This was a great place for a pre-dinner drink, and my drink of choice here was the cocktails in the bottle. One of the cocktails that they serve here is called All About That Basil, which makes sense, but it doesn't really make sense in a British accent because we would say basil. All About That Basil doesn't have the same ring to it, but the drink was very, very tasty. I loved all of these gold hexagons in the Belvedere Bar too. It felt very bling, but very classy at the same time. Taking the stairs straight up, you will find Hudson's. I can't confirm or deny whether the restaurant Hudson was named after our mascot, Captain Hudson, but I like to believe that it was. The restaurant is beautiful and it has floor-to-ceiling windows all the way around. I love ships that really focus on the view, and Prima definitely does do that. We enjoyed a few lunches and dinners here. The service was always fast and the crew were really, really friendly. We sampled a wide variety of foods from what I think may be the world's biggest menu. Heading out of Hudson's, there's Hasuki, Namasushi and Le Bistro, all again with their very distinct themes. It really felt to me as though attention had been paid to the details, and all of the decor on the ship felt very elegant and very modern. I had a great meal in Hasuki towards the end of my cruise, where we watched all of our food being cooked in front of us. It was more than just a meal, it was our entertainment, it was comedy, it was great fun. I've loved every Norwegian cruise ship that I've sailed on, all for different reasons, but this one definitely felt elevated in terms of sort of the premium and luxury feel. Near these restaurants is the Metropolitan, which quickly became one of my favourite venues on the ship. Most days we would end up here at some point to listen to the music by the fantastic Francis, or to pick up a sustainable cocktail which is made with leftover ingredients. Some of the cocktails are actually made from leftover croissants. As if anyone has leftover croissants, but apparently they do. All of the menus are on tablets, which is pretty cool, but this is not the best use of tablets on the ship. More about that later. Beyond the Metropolitan is Sid Norman's Poorhouse and the Improv at Sea. These venues were very popular, so make sure you get there early if you do want to take part in something that's happening here. Again, I love the design of both, and they do things like trivia and comedy inside the Improv Lounge. We watched an amazing show inside Sid Norman's, and the small size of the room made it feel like we were in some sort of trendy underground club. The singers, or I think I should say performers because they did far more than sing, were fantastic, and they were so close to the audience during the show. During the show that we watched, they sang the album Rumours by Fleetwood Mac. I would say that the performers pulled a blinder, and that is your Britishism of the week. To pull something off is to do something, so if you pull off a good British accent, that means that you do a good British accent. To pull a blinder just means that you've done something perfectly, you've done it flawlessly, it's like a perfect victory. I think it just literally means that you've done something so dazzling that it is blinding, but do not quote me on that one. Heading back to the Atrium, you'll pass a Starbucks for everybody who needs their coffee fix, and a guest services desk for anybody who has any queries or wants to book something. We found that the guest services area would be pretty busy at some parts of the day, but there would be nobody there at other times. So if you do have a non-time sensitive query, I definitely recommend going in the evening or going when the ship is in port. Some people say that this is the best location for a Starbucks in the world, and it's hard to argue against that when you've got these huge windows and the view of New York City outside. Also around the Atrium there are lots of shops selling everything from jewellery to perfume, and a photo studio where you can buy the photos that the professional photographers take on board. Just outside here is what is called the Ocean Walk. It's a glass walkway, and although we didn't stand here for a sail away, I imagine that this would be a really good place to watch one from. The glass walkways are on both sides, but they're very easy to avoid if you don't want to go over them. You don't have to. Heading up to deck 8, you'll pass a whiskey bar and come out onto an area that is very different from most cruise ships. In recent years, a lot of cruise lines have got rid of the promenade deck idea completely, which I think is a massive shame, but Norwegian have taken that idea and they've pushed it further than any other cruise line. I've cruised in the past on the Norwegian Breakaway and the Norwegian Getaway, both of which have an amazing promenade deck, but Prima's is even better. On one side, there's an area that's filled with statues that light up at night. Beyond this, on both sides, you'll find the Infinity Beach and the Infinity Pools, which was absolutely one of my favourite places to spend my time on this cruise. We were on this cruise for a week and we had 3 whole days docked in Bermuda. This was the perfect place to soak up the sunshine and also to people watch the people who are on land, which is always fun. This area is exactly the same on both sides, but usually you'd find everybody on the sunny side and nobody on the shady side. If you don't mind being in the shade, it's well worth just walking around and having a look. There are lots of very comfortable seats here and little things like tables that I really like. They've clearly been thought about so they don't take up too much room, but also so that the drinks don't blow off in the wind. It's the small things like that that really do make a difference on a cruise. At the back of the ship is the Indulge outdoor lounge and the Soleil bar. It almost sounds too good to be true, but you can sit here and you can order unlimited food to your table. It works, and we did it many, many times. When my friends would ask me where I wanted to get food, I would just give them a certain look, and they knew that that meant Indulge food hall. The inside of Indulge looks like this, and it feels to me like a big market hall, the kind where you have to explore absolutely everything because you just never know what's going to be around the corner. Each section has a very distinct design that is themed with the food station, but you can sit at any of these tables and order food from the other sections. Everything is freshly made and you order it on these tablets. Also on the outside of Deck 8 is the landing zone for the rush and the drop slides, which reminded me that I must get up the courage during this cruise to give them a go. On the other side of Deck 8 are the specialty restaurants Los Lobos and Onda by Scarpetta. We had amazing meals in both, and I loved how intimate these restaurants felt. In Los Lobos, we actually sat on the promenade deck and ate as the sun set over Bermuda, which was just incredible. I will be bringing you a full video about the food on board, so make sure you check the pinned comment in the description to see when those are ready. When I was 11, I took my first Norwegian cruise, and my favourite place to go was a bar that was then called the Blue Lagoon. I would get chicken wings and burgers, and as a child I had a soda package, and it was just fantastic. Now that I've grown up, I still like the same things, but it's also grown up too, and now it's called the Local. The Local is a bar and restaurant that's split over two sides of the ship, and here you can get all of your classic cruise comfort foods. It's open until late at night too, which is great if you've been out partying in the nightclub or been somewhere like Sid Norman's. Heading up to deck 15 to the spa, it's probably a good idea to take the lift or an elevator if that's what you prefer to call it. Ordinarily, I would just say that a lift is a way to get from one place to another place, but I actually really enjoyed going in these. I did actually bump my nose on the glass at one point by accident because I was trying to look into it, and I didn't realise where the light started. I wish I could share smells with you through the computer, but you're just going to have to trust me that this area smelt fantastic. The spa has these two huge pools, and there are lots of different experiences, like an ice room that I did try in my summer dress, the first charcoal sauna at sea, and there's also an infrared sauna too. All of the plants in here are real, which I think just makes it feel so much more luxurious. It was so peaceful, it was so beautiful, any words like that. The real problem is that it is so comfortable that you may fall asleep. People fall asleep in here all the time, and you might miss something like your dinner reservation, you might miss your go-kart booking, so set an alarm if you're going to be spending a lot of time in here. They also have a hairdressers and a barber if that's the kind of thing you like to do on a cruise, and they have loads of treatment rooms that offer things like massages, facial treatments, acupuncture. If you have some sort of problem, they definitely have a treatment to help, and it's worth checking if there are any discounts on the port days, because quite often it's quite a lot cheaper to have something like a massage when the ship is docked, just because the demand is lower. On deck 15 there's a kids area called Splash Academy, and upper level there is a big gym that's free to use. I toured it for this video, but given how big the ship was, I didn't feel the need to use the gym during this cruise. Walking up 10 flights of stairs or around the promenade deck is just as good exercise in my opinion. Heading towards the front of the ship on deck 16, you'll find the Haven. This is an area reserved for guests who are staying in the Haven cabins, and it's easiest to think about it like a ship within a ship. Staying in the Haven is like staying in a luxury yacht, but you still have all of the attractions of the big cruise ships, like the go-karts and the Broadway style shows. In the Haven, guests have their own reception desk, they have a bar, they have a restaurant where they can have all of their meals if they want. They also have their own pool deck, complete with hot tubs and an infinity pool. Everything is in here. The upper level of the Haven's pool deck is alongside an area that's called the Vibe Beach Club. This is an adults only area, and you can buy passes for it during the cruise. The passes for this area sell out incredibly fast, so if you do want to come here during the cruise, make sure you book it as soon as you get on board on the first day. It has its own infinity whirlpools and a bar, and they even hand out cookies here on a tray, which is incredible. There are a limited number of passes available during the cruise, so it always felt quiet up here, even if it was a busy day on the rest of the ship. Heading inside from the Vibe Beach Club, there's a buffet with a small area at the back that serves classic poolside food like burgers and hot dogs. The buffet itself is pretty small, but that's because there's lots of other included food on the ship. On a cruise, it's pretty common for a ship just to have the buffet and the main dining room as the included options, but Prima also has the Local, and it has all of that food in the Indulge food hall. Even from the buffet here, I could see those slides, and my goodness, they even look scarier from here. I don't know how that's possible, but they did. On the other side of the ship is Food Republic and Palomar. These are both specialty restaurants, and I had a great dinner in Palomar during the cruise, where they actually prepared a big fish for two tableside. Personally, I would have preferred it if the buffet was a bit bigger and it was on both sides, like it is on a lot of Norwegian ships, but as I've already said, I spent almost all of my time in Indulge anyway, and there was a small buffet in the observation lounge, which was like a cut down version of what would be in the main buffet. Heading a little further out past the buffet and the outdoor seating, you'll find the main pool deck. The pool itself is an average size, but there isn't a lot of seating here actually around the pool. At the start of the cruise, I did worry that there might not be enough outside space on the busy sea days, but as the cruise went on, I found more and more areas with outdoor seating. I personally spent a lot of my time down on the lower decks enjoying the outdoor space on the promenade deck, which most cruise ships don't have at all, so to me it just felt as though the space was more split up than it is on other cruise ships. There is of course a bar here and hot tubs on the side. In the far corner there's the bottom level of the water slide called the Wave. I did manage to get up the courage to do this one during the cruise, and it was a lot of fun. The drop is a lot steeper than it looks from down here, but still I'm glad I gave it a go. If you think you'd be brave enough to try this slide and you'd like to book a cruise on Prima or on any other cruise ship, please get in touch through my website. It never costs more than booking direct, and you have our help then forever. There is still lots more outside space to show you, but for now, heading inside, we went to an area called the Galaxy Pavilion. It's a big room full of VR games, and I would have loved this when I was younger. When I was a child and cruising with Norwegian, I spent a lot of my time in the arcade playing Pac-Man. This is a massive step up from Pac-Man, but I did have a go on this roller coaster simulator, and it was so much fun. It's amazing how scary VR can be, even though you know that it isn't real. I particularly like this entrance to the pavilion, so it does feel like you're being transported into a different world. Around this space is the observation lounge, which is another area that focuses a lot on views of the ocean. Bermuda made a beautiful backdrop and we spent a lot of time in here. I think Norwegian did a great job locating things like the pavilion inside the ship where you wouldn't see outside anyway, you'll have a VR headset on, and they saved the window space for the lounges and the restaurants like this. The tables here actually have lots of plug sockets in them, and there's a variety of seats and different little details around. Heading back out and up past the wave water slide, we found a kids aqua park and lots of seating. On the port days, we would often be the only people out here, so we could have had 50 sun loungers each if we wanted to. We would usually pick up a drink from the pool bar and we would bring it up here to sit on these comfortable seats. At the other end of the ship, there's a bar called the Prima Speedway Bar, which overlooks the Vibe Beach Club. It was here that I bought this cool expandable bottle that looks like a pile of tyres. A little side note here in the UK, we spell the word tyres with a Y, not with an I. Following along the sides of the ship, here was the starting point for both the rush slides and the slide that was called the drop. On this slide, the floor literally drops out below you and you drop down 10 decks to deck 8. I would often hear people screaming as they fell, which for some reason made me want to do it more. Also up here is an area that is called the Stadium. It's full of free-to-play games like table tennis and pickleball. There's a little darts area too where you can book one of these areas, and there's mini golf that is free at the moment. Our cruise was during the school holidays, so there were lots of families on board, but it never felt as though there were too many kids or too many teenagers hanging around. Maybe that's because I used to be one of the Norwegian Cruise Line kids, so when I see them around, I just think, oh, that used to be me. The kids now though don't get NCL Kids Club hats like I used to have. I wonder what happened to that hat. On deck 19 there's another sun deck and the all-important go-kart track that extends over 3 decks. I'm happy to report that I did get up the courage to try the go-karts and the slides during this cruise. To find out what they were like, what surprised me about them and who I'd recommend them for, check out this video next.